If you get into something you're passionate about and believe in it, you need to get up every day and fight. This was a quote from the current UFC president, Dana White. Today we will discuss first the creation of the UFC. Next, we will discuss the struggle the UFC had to go through to become a credible sport. And then we will talk about how the UFC has blossomed and become such an impact in today's sports and pay-per-view buys. So my personal connection with the UFC is that my family has always loved combat sports. I grew up watching a lot of Manny Pacquiao and boxing when I was younger because he was just such a big influence for everything and really impacted the culture and the community for Filipinos altogether. So my first topic is the creation of the UFC. The UFC was founded in 1993 by the Ferretta brothers, Lorenzo and Frank. The UFC started out as very small because of the fact that there were so many little underground companies and organizations that would promote MMA. It was never such a big thing, and on top of that, it was seen as unprofessional. No one really thought it would take off. But the person who really made the UFC into what it is today is the current president, Dana White, who, through his promoting genius, helped the UFC become what it is today. So it was never an easy road for the UFC. My second topic is the struggle that the UFC had to go through in order to become the company and organization that it is today. In the beginning, like I said, there were very small other organizations promoting MMA, but like I said, it was seen as unprofessional. It was too violent for the TV. No one thought that it would be watched because of the fact that it was so violent, and there was a misskewed thinking that only thugs and low life people would be doing these sports because it was so violent. So it wasn't very popular in the beginning, but all of it had paid off in the end because now it is one of the biggest sporting moments ever in history. It has multiple top 10 pay-per-view buys in the history of pay-per-view, and especially the number one pay-per-view buy, who has 5.4 million pay-per-view buys, is from the fight between Floyd Mayweather, who was a professional boxer undefeated, and Conor McGregor, who is one of, if not the biggest UFC star there ever is or was. So that already takes the top number one spot. Having an MMA fighter in there is just monumental to the whole entire history of the UFC and what it's done for the world and everything. And on top of that, the UFC is worldwide and is televised in over 150 countries. It has multiple platforms and everything, so it is a renowned organization that has really put its mark in sports today. So, in conclusion, today we've discussed first the creation of the UFC, then we discussed the struggle that the UFC had to go through to become the great sport that it is today, and finally, we discussed how big the UFC has gotten through pay-per-view and just sports in general. So I'd like to leave this off with a quote that describes how the UFC and Dana White probably went by, or that a lot of people should go by if they plan on trying to make it big and follow their dreams. And the quote is, "Determination is the bridge between dreams and success, because without determination, many of the successful people that are around today would definitely not have been successful." So yeah, determination is the bridge between dreams and success.